Bernie. Welcome to Weber Shandwick.
Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be here.
Amazing, amazing. And thank you to Gail and to Susan for welcoming us and creating space for this conversation today. And I'm excited to chat with you today to really give our colleagues across the globe a peek into the life behind the voice of one of the most, dare I say, iconic transit systems around the country, and really also just honor the huge accolade you received for being the lead talent and the star of the In Transit campaign. And we at Weber Shandwick, we were so thrilled to be a part of to support this creative work. And you know, a lot of words today have stuck with me, including collaboration and the collective. And we actually were part of a collective, including the team at Area 23, that brought in diverse perspectives to really help ensure that your story through In Transit not only got attention, but it got the right kind of attention to ensure that we added empathy and more understanding to the broader trans community. And so I think that's why it received so much positive attention. And I know you were thrilled to be a part of it, but I want to go back before In Transit was ever created. I think it's an interesting, and I have to say, a pretty sweet gig to be the voice of the MTA. So I want to know, what has been your career journey that led you to voicing the New York City subway?
We have to go back to about 5th grade. I knew from that age that I wanted to be on the radio. So that was something that I started working on. I would read the newspaper out loud in my basement to practice getting my voice and to try to improve upon it. Went to college at Seton Hall University and was involved with the radio station there. Right. I hear a little who for Seton Hall, a fellow pirate perhaps in the audience. And one of the things that led me into transportation, one of my first jobs after graduation was being part of the original on-air team at Shadow Traffic when they came to New York and doing traffic reports. Back in the days before Waze and Google Maps and all those things, you pretty much had to listen to the radio to find out what the traffic was like. So we were part of that original team that was providing the traffic reports on stations like 1010 WINS and WABC.
And then how did that convert into voicing the MTA?
I did not realize at the time, but being a traffic reporter is my introduction to the world of transportation. Mm-hmm. So later on, I went to work briefly for the New York City Department of Transportation and then for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. And while I was there, I was involved with an organization called Transcom, and no, that was not a portent of the future necessarily, that was involved with coordinating. You talk about collaboration of all the different transportation agencies in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And one of the agencies, of course, was the MTA. So the person that was involved with this organization from the MTA, and then later on involved with when they started making these announcements, knew of my background in radio and said, would you like to be the voice of this? I had no idea what it was, but I said, sure, this sounds like a lot of fun. So that was how that all came about.
That's amazing. And you know, I think many of us, especially those of us in the room, and I'm assuming many of our global colleagues who have visited New York, are familiar with this voice. And forgive me, but I'm gonna go off script for a second. I'm just curious, do you, like the New York City subway can be frustrating at times, to say the least. It's also a good excuse if you're running late for anything. Do you ever take it personally when the subway might be getting a bad rap in the news or anything?
Well, I just hope that at least I am giving correct information. Obviously, this is all put together by a computer, so that's why it sounds the way it does.
Right.
But, you know, I was just on the subway this week and standing there at 34th Street Penn Station hearing, the next downtown, number 2, is approaching the station. Please stand away from the platform edge.
Now, it's quite a gift, I have to say. From what I understand, you knew that you were trans from a very young age, which is not at all uncommon, but you only recently decided to disclose that you're trans. So I'd love, if you're willing, to share a little bit more with us about what it was like in terms of your journey of opening up and revealing your authentic self to the world.
It was scary, as you can imagine, trying to do this and being a somewhat well-known public figure. There was a lot of trepidation about how would this be received. So I did it in a very gradual way. Obviously, first was My wife I told about this before I asked her to marry me back in 1980. But my kids, and then working in concentric circles, like if you throw a pebble into a stream, you see the circles go out. That's how I handled telling people. First family, then close friends, then colleagues, and then finally the world. Yeah. And that was something that was scary, but also very rewarding, because one of the first groups I told was a group in my community where I grew up, of Cranford, New Jersey. And they were wonderfully accepting and supportive. And that gave me the courage to share it more widely. Finally, the end of December of 2022, I posted on social media about what was happening and that I was going to be transitioning. And that went out, and again, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive, which made me feel very good. The thing that blew me away was the interest that this generated. I figured, in June of last year, there would be some interest for Pride Month, and some of the local media might want to do a story. That would be fine, but that would be the extent of it. But it continued beyond that. And it wasn't just New York media that was interested. It was the Washington Post. It was the Associated Press, Reuters, all these people that were doing stories. Most recently, the biggest story was with CBS News, where I had a 6-minute segment on CBS Mornings where I was reading something I wrote. I couldn't believe that I was doing something like this.
Well, I wanted to say I admire your approach to this in terms of taking baby steps and then seeing this surge of media attention and being able to handle it so well, and also knowing that you are a representative for a specifically small community that's subject to disinformation, and you do it so well. I've seen you being interviewed by press, and even in a conversation like today, so you do it so well, so I appreciate that. We have to wrap up in a second, but I want to end on a positive note. So you were the lead talent in a campaign that was recognized by receiving 2 Gold Lions on a global stage that honors creativity and excellence in advertising. So I want to hear what inspires you, and where do you pull your creativity from?
There's a lot of different places. Certainly reading stories, inspirational stories from others would be part of it. But I think some of it really comes from within. You have to examine yourself and what drives you, what excites you. Those are the things that I think give me a lot of my creative abilities, if you will. I don't really consider myself to be a terribly creative person. I was not a good art student or a music student or anything like that. But to have the opportunity to share this and use words, I think that's what I'm best at, is using words to try to share that story. And being on the radio was great experience for how to share something in a short way. So hopefully I've been able to do that.
Yes, you have. You've personally inspired. You've inspired hundreds of people, millions of people around the world. So again, thank you for being here today, and thank you for having us host this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.